Greetings, back with another one. Got some more E-Day content for you. Yeah, I'm so hyped and ready for this game to be released. I don't believe that they still. I don't think we still have a release date. But I'm here on Game Rant with another article about E-Day, and it says Gears of War E-Day focuses on Kelowna, makes it sound even more like a horror game. Now, this game takes place was it 14 years before the original game, and when you compare the first game to the second game in terms of spacing and timing and stuff like that. Yeah, in terms of the mechanics, they play kind of similar, but the theme items were a little bit different. And the first one was more close quarters, and whereas in terms of the atmosphere and places that you had to go and stuff like that, it was really eerie. The second game has some eerie parts of it too, especially when you go to the what's the name of that place? That place up in the mountains where Marcus and Dom goes, and you see the stasis tanks and all that stuff. That sequence is very eerie too. And but Gears of War has, Gears of War One started it all, right? So this takes place 14 years before. So I guess they're gonna go back to how that eeriness of the first game delivered. That would be my hypothesis about this article. But let's just get into it. I want to talk about it. And it says Gears of War E-Day still has a lot to show off, but the coalition has confirmed that the game will take place solely in the city of Kelowna. I don't know if that's in is that in Jacinto? I don't know, but probably not. It's probably his own city. It's the city of Kelowna. But anyway, with the story that uses one city as its centerpiece, Gears of War E-Day aims to make sure players feel every moment of brutality Marcus and Dom faces in the fight against the Locust Horde. Longtime Gears of War fans know that E-Day is most pivotal moment in the game lore, but this upcoming prequel marks the first time that players will get to fully experience an up close and personal first-hand account of what transpired on the worst day in Sarah's history. And of course, that was E-Day, the emergence day when the Locust first, you know, came out of the Hollow and just terrorized, all human life on Sarah and stuff like that. Us Gears of War fans, we all know the story. Proceed. It says Gears of War's 20th anniversary is this year, and it's sometimes hard to believe that the franchise has been going strong for so long. The first game picks up 14 years after the events of E-Day, so the promise of finally getting a look inside the series' most notable moment is both thrilling and terrifying. Gears of War deals with a lot of heavy subjects when it comes to the toll that the war takes on people, but the prequel is bound to dive even deeper into those themes, keeping the narrative confined to Kelowna. Makes sense, and it's also hints that Gears of War E-Day may have deeper notes of horror. Now, now, obviously, in the Gears of War games, it's very much an adventure. You always have Marcus and Dom and Delta Squad, and then you have Cole and Bear. They'll be with like Alpha Team, I believe, and then of course, they lose, their fellow soldiers along the way, and then there's always those four where they, come together as brothers to take down a common enemy. And that always seems to happen, through one and three, and then just to refresh the for the newcomers of Gears, the story of Gears is that the coalition of order governments is going to war against this horde called the Locust, and the war primarily takes place over this fictional field called Emotion, right? And they discover, and like I said, this is spoiler alerts for people who've never played the game, so I don't want to give too much, but they find out that the motion that they were using, it's not it wasn't just a natural resource of fuel. It turned out to be a parasite that was killing the planet and all that stuff. So it's crazy when they discovered all that stuff out, and how they have to exterminate it. But it was beautifully told throughout the game, throughout the series and stuff like that. And then of course after the third one, they kind of picked it up and saying that the Locust never really died off, and then we have this new foe called the Swarm that kind of continuates. That's kind of a continuation of the series and stuff like that, which is fine by me. Like I said, the more gears, the better. So it was just a fun ride, and now we're going to see 14 years before the original game of how they're going to tell the story in terms of the narrative, the spacing, the timing, the emotions that we are, going to be directed to feel by the writers and the development team, and where they're going to punch those notes and where they're going to tug on those heartstrings and stuff like that. I'm sure they'll do a good job with it. But proceed. It says Gears of War E-Day's Kelowna setting puts the horror of fighting the Locust front and center. And it says E-Day was an event that affected the entire of Sarah, but in certain places on the planet became key battlegrounds during the Locust invasion. On the most notable was Kelowna, being one of the first cities to fall under the unexpected invasion. Kelowna is going to reveal the worst of the worst in terms of civilian death and pure terror, and more than what we've been getting throughout the Gears of War series. But that's a pretty tough act to follow. But we'll see. Out of all Gears of War games, E-Day is being set up to the darkest chapter yet. Many of the finer details are being kept under wraps, but the Coalition creative director, Matt Searcy, recently offered some insight into what setting the game in Kelowna will mean for players. Said Kelowna teases kind of a claustrophobic immersion. Okay, like I said, it's kind of like the first game, so I guess they're gonna intensify it more, especially with the latest technology and stuff. Like, I mean, there's no doubt in my game. There's no doubt. What with like Unreal Engine 5, I guess they're gonna use that. I don't know. CT. We'll see. I mean, because like I said, the last games, I mean, Gears of War 5 and 4, I mean, they were beautiful games. So I mean, with the latest technology, so I'm sure this is going to be up to par, and I just can't wait for it. Proceed. When speaking to Games Radar about choosing Kelowna, Searcy said, "Our story is set over consecutive days so that players can become intimate with the city." That's kind of like how Gears of War 4 was. Gears of War 4, the entire campaign, I think, is just one night, if I'm not mistaken. It's like a day and a half or something like that. How they, wrote that. But it said we want them to feel the loss of what was here, the history, the people, and the lives they were living. So the Coalition is working to ensure that people are immersed in the city as possible in order to really feel the tragedy of the horrific things taking place. E-Day's story follows Marcus Phoenix and Dom Santiago, and Cersei's words make it clear that longtime fans will quickly understand how the two become so hardened. They were already toughened soldiers to begin with, but E-Day in the long years after shaped them for the rest of their lives. Yeah, see the tense battle with Marcus there. It says between failing to save doomed civilians and Marcus and Dom realizing the sheer hopelessness of the situation, E-Day is going to be dealing with moments that feel like real life horror. The Gears of War franchise may be set in a fictional sci-fi world, but the horror of the world and the city-wide tragedy akin to something like a uncontrollable natural disaster is deeply grounded in reality. I mean, like I said, man, I mean, throughout the city, I mean, like, this is going to be a great experience for, newcomers, people who haven't, gone through the series. But for us veterans, we've seen the devastation, we've seen the loss, I mean, we were sent on a wild ride. We really were. I mean, when you have, great writing, great storytelling, relatable characters that you feel for, stuff like that, and you fight for, and you want them to succeed and survive and stuff like that. And when those moments happen, it's the art of storytelling. It doesn't matter if it's a game or a film or television series. When you have, really compelling writing, and you have these characters that you relate to and that you are drawn with, you want to see them succeed and stuff like that. But I'm one of those people that you gotta have a really good villain. Like I'm like I quote from the old Hitchcockian days. The better the villain is, the better the story is, because sometimes the heroes, their past can tend to be very very linear. With the villain, they can go lots of different places. It may not always be domination and all that stuff like that. So like I said, I'm just very. I mean, because like I said, this is going to be. They said it's going to be very confined and stuff like that. So we probably might not see Mira. We might see like a new baddie under them. We may see more of more Scourge, maybe see Rom early. Like I said, this is 14 years before, so I'm really what's the word? I'm really just anxious to really see what they're gonna do with this. But where am I? Like I said, I'm not gonna go through all this stuff, but I guess I'll go through. It says the next Gears of War chapter hopefully remains on schedule for its 2026. Okay, so sometime this year. Okay, I mean, because I've been following this for a while, so I mean, I this was sometime last year when I first started. I think it was probably like last, was it in the summer when we first saw the trailer? I can't even remember. But it says right now, EA does not have an official release date besides 2026. Well, at least it's this year. Marcus Phoenix will be the main and potentially only playable character. The campaign length is unknown at this moment. Multiplayer has yet to be officially confirmed by Call of Duty, and that's the big thing. That's what really gives these IPs long legs and long lives. When you have multiplayer content that gives you that replayability to where you want to come back. When sometimes that's the I guess you could say the Achilles heel for a lot of games that's strictly story based. So you really have to put everything that you have to put everything into just telling the story, and then once you complete the story, that's about it. There's really no online. There's really no multiplayer content, or the multiplayer content is not as it's not as it doesn't grasp you like the campaign does. You strictly just want to go in for the campaign, and that's about it. There's a lot of people who play Call of Duty, and some don't even play the campaign. They just go straight into multiplayer. I've never been one of those people. I've always wanted to, enjoy the story and discover the lore, and really wanting to be immersed with the world, and trying to really pick the developers' brains and what they were thinking during the creative process. I'm one of those people. I love doing that stuff. But continue. It says there were hopes that Gears of War E-Day would be present at Xbox's first showcase of the year, but that wasn't the case. Instead, games like Fable and Forza Horizon 6 were front and center. As exciting as a look inside Fable's gameplay was, the absence of Gears of War E-Day was disappointing. As far as it's known, the game is still on track for 2026 release date. Hopefully, it will stays that way. With 2026 marking 20 years of Gears of War, it would be a letdown if the prequels were delayed into 2027. Yeah, delays are always disappointment, but what can you do, man? You don't want them to release an unfinished game, even though we do get a lot of that nowadays with the online services and DLCs and all this other stuff. A lot of games are like released maybe well over probably 60%, and then you gotta get the DLC, and you'll get additional campaigns, additional modes, and stuff like that. That's kind of like the norm nowadays. But in the beginning, when it was going on, like during the 360 era, man, I hated it, and I'm still not too fond of it now. But it's been going on for so long now. This is just the norm now. But yeah, but I'm really kind of apprehensive of what I mean. Will this be the first Gears? Will it be like the first Gears? I mean, where you just had campaign, and yes, it was a multiplayer. So, but will we have a horde mode? I would love that. I would love if we have a horde mode too, because I spent so many. I probably spent a lot of hours, like in recent Gears of War years. I probably spend more time on horde than I do, in death matches and stuff like that. During my Gears of War 2 and 3 days, that's when I was a lot of death matches and stuff. But with the 4 or 5, I played a lot of horde because horde was just so fun. And then they introduced all the classes and all this stuff, and it was a lot of grinding just to upgrade those classes and get upgrade those cards and max those abilities out. So it was so fun. So I mean, Gears of War 5 horde mode to me is the best that it's been. And I would love for them to like adopt some of the Gears of War 3 horde things where they had that command center, stuff like that, where you can calling for backup and stuff and use the tokens and stuff. And I hope that they can bring the stuff like that. It was just little snippets in there that was pretty cool that Gears of War 3 and 4 had, but I guess they exchanged those because now players have, each class has their own special move that they can do. So, and a lot of them are really really cool too, especially when you upgrade them and get them stronger and stuff. It's really really cool. But yeah, yeah. Did I read? No, I'll read this last part. It says, what did I read it? No. It says Gears of War E-Day may have been left out of the show. Yeah, I did. I did read that. Yeah, I don't need to drone on anymore. But yeah, man. I mean, Gears of War E-Day, man. I'm hyped for it. I'm hyped for it. I mean, for those who've been watching my videos for a while, y'all know that I'm a Gears of War head, Gears of War jarhead, if you will, man. And just it's one of my favorite. It's one of my top favorite franchises of all time. And I just been sticking with this franchise for a while, man. But now that the Gears of War IP is now going to cross over to the Sony, a lot of gamers, Sony, strictly Sony gamers are going to be able to enjoy the experience. And like I said, we just got a Gears of War One reloaded and stuff like that. I haven't streamed or anything, but I have played it. And some friends of mine on PlayStation, we haven't really got into it yet, but hopefully we will. Because ultimately, this is what we're all waiting for. We're all waiting for E-Day, man, and just hopefully the content is expansive, like how it's been in recent years. I hope it's not too too confined, like too limiting and stuff like that. I really don't want that. I mean, hopefully, I mean, the campaign, and no doubt in my mind, will be satisfactory. I just hope that the multiplayer, at least hopefully we can get some deathmatch. And I pray for Horde. We might not get it because the original game didn't have it. Horde mode, wasn't introduced until the second game. So who knows, man? Only time will tell, man. But I remember long enough, man. Another one for the archives. 31 cents at it. It's your brother Bleak signing off. And until next time, you guys. Us.